Okay, so this wire needs to be sorted out. Now, if you have a look at this wiring, if I pull it apart, I don't know how well you're going to see that, but it's full of corrosion. Even if it was plugged in, it wasn't going to make any difference. This is a Scotch lock, which is not the best connector. The reason I use a Scotch lock is not to cut the wire, the original wire, but it makes a very poor contact if it hasn't spliced properly. And as we can see here, they're super corroded. Anyway, I've got replacement terminals here. There's plenty of, actually there isn't plenty of give, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the end off. I'm going to do what's on here as well, so I'm going to use a spade, and then I'll create another link, another wire link from here, and put the spade on the other end so we can still have it connected, disconnected. Okay, it's all repaired now. That took well over an hour to faff about with. I had to take the pin out of here in the end, put a new wire on it because there wasn't a lot of wire left. So I connected it further down, spliced the wire, put a new one in, 2 connectors, back to the power commander. So that is now ready. Right, before that goes back on, I've got even more access to the thermostat now, so I'm going to do that first. I hope this is the issue because I don't want it overheating when I'm out in Spain. So when it overheated at Castle Combe last year, the radiator was full of water and I was in motion going around the circuit. So that's the only thing I can think it could be. So let's get that out and get that changed. Okay, so I've got my blowtorch, got a thermostat. Those of you watch my videos, you know that I like to test everything that I change, go through a procedure of how things work and don't work. So I'm just going to fire this up. I'm just going to warm up the wax in the bottom and just see if this does actually work. It is working. It's very slow to work. I feel it creaking in my hand. It's really struggling. That's a lot of heat now compared to what the water temperature should be. This is set, you see that? It's set to 82 degrees. So that was a lot of heat on there. Well, I've got the new one, so that's going to go in. And hopefully that'll cure the problem. New one going in. Most thermostats have a little bleed screw or bleed hole at the top. That needs to be at the top. Actually in this case, definitely you can put it upside down. No, it won't let you, so it does go that way. Okay, the thermostat's done. We can't put any coolant in it because the radiator's not on yet. I just want to take this throttle off and see if I can stick that domino one on there before the throttle bodies and stuff go back on. that's going to fit in there. Looks like for the future I'm going to have to change this block so I can put the one unit in together. So this is where we are so far. Valve clearance is done, plugs are in, thermostat's done, wiring repaired. Now the plastic trim's in at the back, coils need to go back in, the breather pipes, wiring to be plugged in, and then I can start putting the radiator back. Throttle's back together. Fortunately we couldn't use domino on there. If you have a look here, this is my clutch cable. It's supposed to be a little sleeve in there, Teflon sleeve. So that's metal on metal, which isn't right. So I've got a new clutch cable over there. So I'm going to put that on, and then I know it's new. I fitted these levers last year. They were brand new, and I'm quite funny about making sure these bushes are in, but this doesn't look like it's in there. It's got a lot of play in it, so I need to address that as well. I'll do that when I do the clutch cable. So before the throttle body goes on, you can see the clutch cable runs right underneath it and all the way around the bike. So I'll do the clutch cable next, then I'll put all the other bits back in, and we'll go forward from there. I've just got my clutch lever off. The bush is still in there, but when I put it into the bolt, it's almost like it's made for an 8mm bolt and not a 6mm bolt. Right, I'm going to see what I can find to replace that with. There we go. I just machined up a new bush on my lathe, 6mm hole instead of 8mm. Right, let's get the lever back on. Okay, everything is in. These clip onto the back of the airbox, two of these relays. This one here goes to the fan on the radiator, so I'm going to have to put the radiator in next so I can plug that in before the airbox goes in, otherwise I'll struggle to do that. The throttle cable's got to go on. Once the throttle body comes over, we can plug this temperature sensor back in. There's a couple of more switches. One more switch back here. Let's plug this one here, air temperature sensor. That'll go on last, top of the airbox. Clutch cable's in and routed. This bolts onto the radiator bolt. So the radiator's got one bolt in it on the other side, so it's sort of hanging towards me. I've got my purge filling tool. What this tool does is it creates a depression, a vacuum inside the cooling system. And then once you've got the vacuum built up in there, you close off the purge side of the system, and you put this hose into the antifreeze. And the water, so you can fill the system back up. What this does is it fills all the voids within the cylinder block, the radiator, without you having to keep filling it up, running it, waiting for the thermostat to open. It should fill all of that up for you. At times it can be messy because we're going straight to the radiator. We can't see how much is in there. When you fill through the expansion tank, there you can see what's happening, and you can see where it's filling up. So therefore you can turn the tap off, but here you can't. So we'll end up getting some coolant spurting out the top at times. It's probably going to shower me in red fluid. So what I might do is stick a hose on here and divert it away from me so we don't make a hell of a mess up here. So what I'm going to do first is create the vacuum so you can see what's happening. So what this does, uses the air line, it blows across this top pipe, and as it's blowing past it, it's drawing the air out. So we've created a vacuum in there, and now it's holding, so we know that all the pipes that we've put up, all the hoses we've put back on, none of them are leaking. So yeah, you can see down here where it blows past and draws all the air out when the tap's open. Tap's now closed, so it's holding pressure within a line down to the radiator there. And now if we open this valve, we will draw the antifreeze from down there into here. Now this takes 2.6 litres of coolant. So I've got 1 litre in there, and I've brought the watering can on, and I'll top that up as we go through because I'd rather have more antifreeze in there than just a mixture. Most people take their antifreeze out when they're doing track work. If you're racing, I don't think you're allowed antifreeze in there. If that leaks onto the circuit, it creates a very slippery surface. A good friend of mine had no antifreeze in two of his bikes, Jukes 600 and a 750, and it was in his garage. We had a cold spell earlier in the year and didn't realise both bikes froze solid, caused all sorts of issues inside the cylinder head. Up here under the cam cover there are 3 core plugs. It knocked the core plugs out, filled the sump up with water, didn't realise water pump impeller had frozen, so when he started it up that had seized and unwound the oil pump pulley at the back and destroyed his engine. So mine's having antifreeze in there. Okay, so let's fill this up and see how it goes. Don't know if you can see that hose has been sucked flat, creating a void for our coolant. Coolant, most of it gone. You can see where I diluted it with the regular water, and if you can see in there, if you can see it's almost at the brim. There we go. Okay, time for the throttle bodies to go back on. Throttle body's on, cables are on, clutch push done, clutch feels good now. Now we need to get the airbox on, so that part, so we get the airbox on. I need to clean that K&N filter out and re-lube it. Cover on, we've got these relays to hook onto the back of the airbox, and there's a wire here as well just for the temperature sensor to go on. Once that's done, that's the top bit done, tank will go back on. Got to do oil filter, tyres, mirrors off, blanks on. What else? Then we need to run it up, check the coolant level. That did settle a little bit, so I've topped that back up. And I'm going to leave the cap off, we'll run it, and then we'll check the level again. I'm going to make sure the fan works. And also down here I've got an exhaust flap that's seized, so I need to have a look at that. To be fair, I need to check the motor. My motor's way back there. Check the motor, see if the motor works, because if the motor doesn't work, it's pointless me unseizing that. So I've just turned the bike off for a second, so we're at 44 degrees there. I've got my thermal imager out, so what I'm going to do is, as this warms up, I'm just going to follow the temperature and make sure all the hoses and the radiator are getting warm. So I'll start it back up and we'll keep an eye on it. Okay, so it's all warming up, thermostat's opened. When I use the thermal imager, you can see that the radiator looked quite dark because it picks up the largest heat, which is the exhaust, as the orange, and then everything else is cooler than the exhaust system. But when I moved away from that, you could see it was running in the mid 80s for the radiator. Fan cut in about 102. It was spouting out excess coolant from there because the overflow bottle was not on yet, so we'll get that back in and we won't have that problem then. So it's warm now. I'm going to let that cool down because I've got to do an oil and filter change on it. I do want to look at this exhaust valve, but the motor's buried behind that. It's Sunday today, and what's the time now? 2:30. This is being loaded tomorrow between 10 and 1. I don't want to be here all day. My wife's already nagging at me. Not in a horrible way. She knows I'm going on this trip, but it's a bank holiday weekend, and I do need to spend some time with her too. So while I'm waiting for that to cool down, wheels off, get the tyres done, I can come back, do an oil and filter change, top the coolant back up when it's cool, put the expansion bottle back on, look at that motor and the flap. If I can't fix those, I'm not too fussed about it. Mirrors have got to come off still. Okay, start with the wheels. Tyres are on, all torqued up, front tyres are on. These back ones, well actually both tyres are Metzeler Racetech TD slicks. They're bi-directional on the back. Most circuits are clockwise, so you tend to wear one side of your tyre out, but on these rears you can flip them. Unfortunately the front ones are rotational, so once you go through them, you've got to throw those away. I've got the back cover off, just taking the cables off to have a look at this motor. This was stiff, but it does actually now move. It's stuck in the open position, which is great, but the gears in here seem to have broken up. Where that was stiff at one point, it just chewed the gears up. Anyway, as long as that flap's open, I'm not going to worry too much about this. I'll just leave it isolated. On the front here, see the plastic broke off the top fairing, so I've just made a metal bracket, put it through, screwed it, so I've got something to screw against. There's the broken piece. Okay, the back's back on, exhaust flap set to open, expansion bottle's back on, well, just overflow bottle. Now I just need to get the side panels on, both sides, and then go for the rigmarole of getting this downstairs and load it into the van ready for tomorrow. And I've just got these mirror blanks to put in now. Bespoke to the bike, it's GSXR. Well, there you go guys, all back together, panels are back on. That was 2 full days getting the bike track ready for Almeria. So we've done tyres, my mirrors are off, full service, valve clearances, spark plugs, clean the air filter, oil and oil filter. Repaired the wiring, tried to get new grips on there but that didn't work. New clutch cable, and a few other bits and pieces that we had to sort out. The panel repair, this was broken here, I had to sort that out. Even the bottom, the plastics have broken, and I had to make a like a horseshoe to go around so I can bolt the bottom up together. It's right next to the exhaust, so there's a lot of heat going there. Looking forward to trying these tyres out. I've got to come back again tomorrow, load it up. If you missed a video about this bike got up here, because we're upstairs, I need to move a lot of cars to get this forklift, one over to the other side to pick up the ramp that's going to get this bike down, and then get the bike down. As you can see, it's a Sunday, there's nobody here, so I've got to get all these vehicles out just to get this bike down. But it is what it is. If you want to go and play, you've got to put the time in. Well guys, I've arrived at Suzuki de Almeria. Bike's ready, tyre warmers are on. It's a glorious day today. Everyone's in the paddocks, running their bikes up, getting the tyres ready. Amazing clear blue skies. It's the time now, it's just gone 9:30 and it's already very warm. So tarmac's dry, sun is shining, we're going to have a great time. Well, this was supposed to be a pleasure week, but it's turned out to be a working weekend. My bike broke down, that bike broke down, that bike broke down. So I've ended up having to repair the clutch of my mate's bike, because he bought a second-hand engine, put it in there. The clutch basket wasn't fitted properly, so he had no clutch, so I had to sort that out. This one here broke down. We found out there was no regulator fitted to it at all, so it was running on battery. That was a new purchase for these guys. Ended up putting a regulator on there that I had, a spare one. My regulator shorted out, blew the master fuse, and I stopped on track. Put it back in, done a load of tests, found the short circuit to be the regulator on the side here. So I'm having to steal my regulator that I gave those guys back into my bike. Oh well, the work continues. We had the airbox off, we checked all the plugs for the ignition switch and all the ignition, or the bar switches. None of those were an issue. We didn't have very many spare fuses, so I had a little bit of wire left where I made the repair down there. I dropped a piece of wire, so I used that as a makeshift fuse, and as you can see, we were tapping and arcing out on the battery, not to blow the last fuse we had left. Anyway, we found the shorts to be this plug here, which goes to the regulator. So it wasn't from the generator that was shorted, it was actually inside. It was shorting live to earth. Anyway, those guys are stripping the bike, get my regulator back. I'm going to fit this plug to the regulator here. Everybody's helping out. It's a hands-on game when you're at track. Right, terminals are crimped on. Not the prettiest because I've had to crimp them on the other bike, uncrimp them, recrimp them. There's no soldering iron here, so it's going to have to do until I get back to the UK. Going to put the plug back on it, and then I've got the regulator to go on. So new regs in, it's all wired in, all the way up to the battery. Just need to put the rest of the scrap back on, tank back on. Actually I better get tyre warmers back on as well, because as soon as it's back together I'm back on circuit. Okay, bike's back together, it's fixed, it's running, got my dancing suit on, ready to go out there and play. Let's not forget the sunglasses. Right, have some fun. I was getting real uneven wear on the rear tyre, so to adjust the suspension, my rebound was out quite a bit, so we sorted that out. I've also lowered the tyre pressure, which has made a difference again. Also on the bottom one, the front suspension was bottoming out on the back straight, and the bike was squirming all over the place under hard braking. Where that was bottoming out, the tyres were having to do all the suspension work, so we've adjusted that. And my mate Steve thought it was funny after we came in to push the cable tie up without me noticing, to try and trick me. Thanks, Steve.
I don't think I'm funny, I am funny.
Thankfully everything still together. I'm starting to get a very slight oil leak from this starter motor cover as well. I ended up with a little bit of saturation on my boot, which I noticed. This bottom screw was slightly loose, I've nipped it up. It has slowed it down, but it's not enough to cause any issues, but we'll look at that when we get back to the UK. Right, track day done. Everything is loaded up on the stillages. Forklift's getting them back onto the lorry over there.